RotoGrinders! Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka BlenderEd, Blender HD. If you want to follow me on Twitter, and it's Thursday, August 3rd, and we'll be doing a little bit of a software class. Maybe we're going to learn a little bit, maybe how to use Excel, just a little bit, because I get a question. I get a question and a half. Can I call it two questions? But about two questions. One was like half a question about simple Excel functions, how to set stuff up for yourself. Of course, if you get the Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports, the Advanced Player's Guide comes with custom Excel tools that are pretty much cut and paste. But people have asked, can I add a sheet here? Can I add a little function there? Can I set something up for myself that's simple to do? And I'm going to show you just some simple functions in Excel. Are they the best way to do these things? Probably not, but it's a much more accessible way. And give you a little heads up on manipulating stats and making your time much more efficient in your DFS process, your sports betting process, your props, your pick'ems, anything like that, using the data that we have here at RotoGrinders. So give me those thumbs. First thing in the door, hit the thumbs up button for the free content here this morning. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. And you can get all the Theory of DFS Excel tools at theoryofdfs.com. But obviously here, we have Lineup HQ, which is our main tool at RotoGrinders. Now for DFS, we have, the bat projections, we have plate IQ projections, we have all this information here that you could edit yourself. You could make your own projections, and you could even upload here, as long as you have, at least, a fantasy point column. You don't even need ownership. I mean, they could be separated. And if you have multiple, let's say, you don't necessarily just use the bat projections or just use the plate IQ projections in MLB or whatever sport, NFL's coming up. There may be multiple projection sets out there that you kind of want to manipulate and maybe aggregate. We provide you that in Lineup HQ itself. So as long as it's formatted and has the right columns, like you could, right? Like, I mean, right now, I could switch between, here's the bat projections, here's the plate IQ projections. And you can see here, switch. So Freeman went up to 10.81, right? You could even change the ownership. Like bat projections have ownership. Plate IQ projections have ownership, right? And there you go. You could aggregate if you want between the two. So let's say I want to aggregate equally, 50-50, between the plate IQ projections and the bat projections. You could do just that. You could save the projection, say you call it whatever you want. If you wanted to do 70-30, if you want whatever proportion that you want, right? So I could save this projection set as it's called my aggregate projections. And it will do that eventually. It should. This worked before. Do we have to reload it? There's not a good example. Do we have to get someone to fix this? And now over here, you can see here, choose file. So you could upload your own CSV file, and you could see that, little templates if you need them. Yeah, I don't know why this is not working. Normally you can. I don't know. I don't know if the development team's working on something, but typically you can. You can aggregate. Well, hopefully you can. I'm going to show you how to do it another way. But yeah, you could do this, 50. I mean, the ownership also, if you want. You can save this projection set. Yeah. I'm not sure why this isn't working, but I'll point it out with the development team after the show. Or someone post in our Discord, the Lineup HQ. This should work. This literally worked earlier. Okay, but in theory, you could, right? Not a good look. In theory, you can. And you can aggregate here. Good morning to everyone in the chat. Jair Sauceda, Joe Mack, Mari Dinese. Good morning. Feel free to type in your questions in the YouTube chat if you got any. And go about anything, right? Doesn't have to be about this subject, but in case you want. Okay. Because Well, I use lineup HQ for DFS, right? To build my lineups and everything I do, but I may use multiple projection sets. I use the theory of DFS tools. So I may be importing, exporting, I may be changing some of these numbers, stuff like that, and I do that in Excel. Also, on the other hand, if you're not going to use lineup HQ, you could always download the projections from lineup HQ. And when you download from lineup HQ itself, you're just basically getting the DFS projections. You're not getting the statistical projections, which means, like, unless you're using it for fantasy points and ownership and stuff like that, it's not going to do you any good. But we do have, like, here's the Plate IQ projections. We have a table for, obviously, if you're a premium member, go to MLB, go to player projections, and here are the whole list of player projections, right? So obviously there's a fantasy point column, right here, that corresponds to everything. You have the floor, the ceiling, the ownership. You got everything in here. But you also have all the statistical projections. The mean innings pitched, walks, strikeouts, win probability, earn runs, hits allowed, hit by pitches, quality start. You have the underdog score. Like if you're going to go to underdog at Prize Picks, like you got that here. Like it calculates the fantasy point, just like we do in lineup HQ. And this would be like the mean for underdog scoring. This would be the mean for Prize Pick scoring, right? It also has number of pitching outs, right? It has everything, pitch count. You got everything here. The bat also has its own table. If you have the bat subscription, so it gives you, here's all the tables for the bat, right? And some of them have similar stats, and some of them have different ones. Some of them have pinch hit risk. Some have the complete game stat. I don't know if you necessarily need that, right? So you get all of this, right? So this is a table that you could download. This is right here. Download a CSV. You can see right up over here. Download a CSV. The batters, the hitters, right? And here's the Plate IQ projections as everyone, because you could sort right here by starting pitcher and all the other positions, all the games, whatever you want. So let's say, for instance, like obviously the aggregator, doesn't work in there. Let's say you wanted to aggregate the two together, right? If you're just using the fantasy point column, it makes it a little bit more simple. But let's say I wanted to aggregate, for instance, a couple of categories from the projections for the pitchers and the hitters, from the bat projections and the Plate IQ projections together. Very similar to this function that's up here. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, you want the statistical projections, because maybe you're not necessarily playing straight classic salary DFS. Maybe you're on Prize Picks. Maybe you're on Underdog. Maybe you're betting props, right, in a legal state. And it's like, okay, well, the bat projections have, like, I could see here, I could go to like the pitchers, right? I could go to Kevin Gausman strikeouts, right? I'm going to just search for Kevin Gausman strikeouts. 7.38 as the mean. And you go, okay, that's fine. But let's say you want to look at the Plate IQ projections. Gausman, 8.42. So our Plate IQ projections has a much higher mean strikeout total, right? If you're using the Plate IQ projections, you go to a site like Prize Picks, and you'd look at Gausman and go, "Oh, I'm gonna get the over." One cool thing is, if you're a premium member here at RotoGrinders, is that the Plate IQ projections actually get overlaid on the screen. And remember, they're mean projections; they're not median projections. So Kevin Gausman, you can see right here, 8.42. The same thing happens on Underdog, right? I could pull up Underdog, and you can see here. You see all the little RotoGrinder symbol, and it shows you the mean projection currently on the Plate IQ and when it's available, right? So if we go to Gausman, You can see here, 8.42. Right? But that's pretty high. The Play IQ has it for 8.42, but the bat has him for 7.38. Well, what happens if you want to just split the difference? And you go, okay, well, let's have the projection be the mean is 7.8. And then you compare that to Prize Picks or Underdog. And you go, okay, do you want to take the over now? Right? If you just use the Plate IQ projection, you'd be like, okay, I'm over 7, give it to me. Maybe you got projections from another place. Right? There are projections out there other places. And maybe you want to combine a whole bunch of them. Now, in lineup HQ, you could do that for fantasy points. You could do that for ownership, but you can't do it for stats. So how would you do that? Like people go, it's like, oh well, I need someone to do that for me. I'm not technologically inclined. It's not that complicated. And you could do this in Excel, and you could even Google 2 or 3 things to learn how to do it. It's really not that complicated. I'm going to show you an example. Because maybe you want to use our statistical projections here at RotoGrinders for some other tool elsewhere, right? Maybe you have some type of screen that you like the way that it looks somewhere else, and you're allowed to import it. Part of the Better Collective family, we have the Action Network or Fantasy Labs and Scores and Odds. I don't think you can import stuff on Scores and Odds, but on the Action Network you can. So if you have the whatever the pro package there, maybe you upload your own projection. Well, it has to fit into their format. Right? You can't just download the Plate IQ projections or the bat projections and just take that CSV as is and just upload it there. You have to get their template. Just like if you were going to import into lineup HQ, you have to use our template. But if you want to use our data and use it elsewhere, that's perfectly fine. Sign up for RotoGrinders Premium and use our data. Download the CSVs. There are even some automated processes you could do. That's a little bit more advanced. But simple. I want to keep it simple, right? This may not be the best way, but it's a way, and it's maybe the simpler way. So I'm going to skip over. I'm going to go over to my Excel document and just show you an example of how this is not complicated to do. Okay, may take it to set it up initially. May take you half an hour. Right? You may have to Google something and go, okay, did I put the $sign in the right spot? What cell reference do I need? Okay, B4, C72, right? And then once you have it set up, it should work pretty much every time. You could cut and paste the standard the projections from RotoGrinders and then have it compute on your screen any way that you want it to compute. So I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna show you. So let me go to my entire monitor on this other side and maybe very small. I'll try to increase the kind of get it a little bit. I mean, it's going to be very big for me, but you'll see it here. So here are the Plate IQ projections. So like if you click that download button, you'd get this, right? You get a player ID. I got rid of the player ID. Okay. So like if I'll even show you, right? I'll download the current Plate IQ projections, right? And show you just it's not complicated. So I clicked on the download button. And why am I getting a lineup HQ here? Hold on. Okay. So I'm going to get this. So you see here, it has all the, I mean, obviously smaller. I'm going to get, I'm going to get rid of the first column, delete the first column, and then I'm going to click on the square in between the A and the 1, right? Which gets you everything, right? So it got everything. Press Command C, right? Right, edit, right? Or you can go to edit copy, the copy function. And then I go to the first cell, and I do Command X. Command V. I have to go and do that again. Okay. These are the types of things you do like instinctively. Okay. So there you go. It put it in. I don't know how much has changed, but whatever has changed is changed. That's the current Plate IQ projections. So you see here, you have player, salary, position, team. Then you have like home runs and all the columns that we just saw before. You get it all. Okay. I did the same for like here's the bat for the pitching document, because it's the bat. You need to download the pitchers and the hitters separately. I'll zoom in so you can see here. It's the same thing we saw before. I did the same exact thing. So you have all the players, all the names, all the everything. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to take Brandon Fat. Is that his name? Fat Fate? Brandon Fate. So it's like, okay, so here's the bat projections for strikeouts. We could go over to the strikeout column. 4.61. Okay. Now on the Plate IQ, we go to Brandon Fat. It'll be at the bottom of the document. Brandon Fat. We can find him right here. K's, innings pitched, which is the K column. Which one is the K column? Okay, S. S is the K column. Go down, Brandon Fat. Go to the S column, 4.6. So what do we have? 4.6. And is it very close, actually? 4.6 and 4.61. I mean, okay, it's pretty even. 4.6 and 4.61. If you average that out, it'll be 4.605, but whatever. Let's try. Let's go to Gausman. Since we used Gausman before, because one had it very much higher. So you can see here that obviously you go to the K column for Gausman on the pitchers, K column for Plate IQ, and it's like, well, how do I combine them? Okay, let's say you have a template from some other place, or just you create your own if you want. But here's a document that I have. This is a template for a tool that I use, right? And they have that. You don't even have to doing it this way. You don't even have to worry about the columns. Okay, you don't have to worry about calling the columns the right thing. It doesn't even matter as long as you know where the column is. So right here, like we go to Gausman. Right, Gausman's on Toronto. We go all the way down. That middle column is the strikeout column. We go all the way down to Gausman. We're using him as an example. Gausman. Kevin. Okay, here we go. Kevin Gausman. 7.689, because I'm aggregating them together. Right? So we take a look. Now you look up here, you're going to see it looks like a mess of stuff, but it really isn't. You use a function called VLOOKUP. So basically what you're saying is that you want to find Kevin Gausman, this name, in column B, right? Turns out it's column B, 1668. So it'd be column name, comma, and then you want to find that name on the next thing is PIQ, which is the name of the sheet, right? You name your sheets whatever you want. Plate IQ. You can name it PIQ, whatever it is. Name of sheet. I mean, you could just go and cut and paste it. You could even just select the cell and it'll give it to you, right? I'm saying go to Plate IQ, and I highlighted all the columns, the entire document. So that's what the $1:, $, and everything. All you have to do is select, all you have to do is do that, and you'll get it, right? And then you go to what the column number is for the stat that you want. The strikeout column is 19 on the plate IQ document. And then you go false because you want an exact match. And that would be VLOOKUP, the name that you're looking for in this zone, the column number of the thing that you want to grab, and then exact or true or false for exact or partial match, right? So that's what I did here. If I did on plate IQ, if I get rid of everything else, right? See, 8.41. That's what it comes up. 8.41. I'm going to put it back the way it is. Now, I could do the same thing on the back document. So VLOOKUP, same thing, right? B2, right? B whatever, B, comma. I mean, you could literally Google like VLOOKUP Excel, and it's very basic. So you just do a VLOOKUP of that document. So instead of saying PIQ, I have it as a bat dash pitchers. Right? And what column is that under? Well, it's the 44th column. So I'm like, okay, I want that also. Now, if I wanted to just equal weight, I could add them together. How do you get the average of something? You add them together. So you take both of those VLOOKUPs that you wrote out, and you put a plus sign in between, and at the end you put /2, right? You're dividing it by 2. And you'll get that. And you'll get, well, you won't get that. But you get something, right? You'll get the average of the two. What I've also added to this is a weights sheet, which you'll basically say, how much do I want to weight this? I don't want it to be 50-50, but I could if I put it in. What if I want 90-10? What if I want 85-15? What if I want 55-45? Well, in this string that I have in this column, instead of dividing it by 2, adding them and divided by 2, I'm multiplying each of them by the weight. So 0.5. So imagine instead of doing divide by 2, use the multiplication function. So you go, I want the VLOOKUP from the plate IQ times 0.5 plus the VLOOKUP for the bat times 0.5. You add them together, that's the average. And instead of putting the 0.5 there, the value that I wanted to use is the thing from the weights screen, which is just essentially just 2 columns. You can see right here. So basically B2, B1 and B2. So I have it at 70-30. If I change this to 0.5, this to 0.5, and then go back, 7.895. You can see here. That's a 50-50. Remember, the plate IQ has Kevin Gausman strikeouts like up the wazoo. The bat has him like a strikeout lower. So if I go back to the weight document and I just say, I want the bat at 0.9, plate IQ at 0.1, obviously if I go back here, it's going to be lower. 7.483. So if you wanted to create a document that did this, you could do it. Anyone can. 0.5, 0.5. Right? What's the reference to this? B1 on the sheet weights. B2 on the sheet weights. So you go to the first dot, you could see right up here. I mean, I don't know, it's little, I can't zoom in on the function. You see it says weights, $, B2 with the dollar signs there, so it's an absolute cell reference. So I'm replacing that. I mean, that was 0.5. The easy way to do this in Excel is to put the actual values in and then cut and paste and replace them, just so you know that it works, right? I can replace this right now, the weights, with 0.5, and it'll show the same thing, right? And then once I got the weights document set up, I just replaced I cut out the 0.5, and I just said that cell, right? That's it. Whatever the reference to that cell is, put it there. And you do that for every column. You could do it for everything. Once you did it once, you could now, you see what I did here? So once I got it right in one spot, I can now drag it, right, and copy it to the whole column. So just take it and drag it for the whole thing. And it'll copy. And it'll copy every row. So you don't have to you don't have to do this for every row. This is row 1668. You don't have to type this function in for row 1669. It'll do it automatically for you. So that's why you do it right once in a row, and then you just copy the whole thing down. So here are the hitters, right? The hitters are also in here. Right? I can scroll all the way up there, hits, home runs, singles, doubles, triples. Right? So this home run column, Carson Kelly, 0.08. So what is it doing? It's going to the bat hitters document, the sheet that you have, that you just cut and paste. You downloaded it from RotoGrinders and you cut and paste it. So you're doing a VLOOKUP of Carson Kelly. So you look, it looks through the whole thing for Carson Kelly. And then it goes to the 47th column, because that's the column for a home run. Whatever column number it is, if you have a different projection that's set or whatever column that you want. Goes to 47. It gets that. It also does a VLOOKUP of the Plate IQ document. It looks for Carson Kelly. Column 12, which is the home run column. Then it multiplies each of them by the weight that you have here. Right? Instead of you're not going to hard code it or anything, right? You could change it to whatever you want, 80% and 20%, right? And you go back here, Carson Kelly 0.068 home runs. If I weight it equally, instead of 0.068, it will be 0.08. You're aggregating the numbers. And once you got it done for one column, just like before, you could drag the thing. You just hold it by the corner and it drags up. Right? I could drag it down, right? Right? It'll do all of it. If I got rid of the columns below it, if I just deleted this, let's say I deleted this. Well, I'm just going to copy this like that. Done. Does it for you. You do that for any column that you want. Let's say you have a template document. We could look at it. For instance, if I go into Lineup HQ and download the DFS projections from Lineup HQ itself. You go over here. I'm going to make it larger. Right? So here's our template for Lineup HQ. Obviously, it's not statistical projections. You have the player ID, the team, the opponent, the position, name, fantasy points, projected ownership, batting order, ceiling, floor, minimum exposure, and then if you had the exposures or a salary, I mean, you don't need to import anything, all of it. If you want, you import whatever you want. So let's say you grabbed another projection set from somewhere else that had Freddie Freeman at 8 points. And you grabbed another one. You grabbed 5 of them. I got projections from here. I got projections from there. I got I go, oh, there's some free projections out here that I'm going to grab. I don't know how valuable they are, but I'll have them in anyway. And you go, okay, well, in order to feed back into lineup HQ, you're going to replace this 10.81 with that VLOOKUP function. So instead of 10.81, it would be, okay, where's the name? The name is an E, right? E2. So you go VLOOKUP, parentheses, E2, right? And then you go to this whatever sheet, you add another sheet, you add your sheet with the projection from somewhere else. You go, okay, what column number, what sheet it is. You can do the whole reference, the whole sheet if you want. You go, okay, what column number is fantasy points in that sheet? Maybe it's column 16. So, okay. So you don't even have to change you don't have to change the names of like F points or anything. Doesn't have to match up. Just what column number is it? You can grab it. Then you go to the next sheet of whatever other projection set you have. You go, where's the fantasy point column? Oh, that column is column 74 for whatever reason. You go, okay, VLOOKUP. There you go, reference that. And if you want to, you can add them all together and divide by whatever number you want. If you want to do it, if you hard code it in, then you could multiply all of them by whatever weight that you want and create a little sheet, another little sheet that has just name each weight and make sure they match up into your function line. That's it. Right? So you could, I could look up anything I want. So you could download the R projections. You could download, insert any projections you want. Fantasy Labs has projections, right? Our sister, they're part of the Better Collective family. You could download their projections. Think in terms of anything, right? You're going to play college football. I don't play college football. Maybe you're betting on college football receiving yards. Our projections for college, I don't know. Our document has like all the stats listed out, but we have that data. Grab the data, and maybe you have data from somewhere else, projections from somewhere else. And if you wanted to aggregate them in some regard, this is as simple as you can do. I know Corey Pooler, is anyone else confused? Trust me, this is not hard at all. I could show my 14-year-old nephew how to do this, and he could do it himself in 10 minutes. It's not complicated. Trust me, it is. As long as you know how to type in letters into a function thing, equals, parentheses, VLOOKUP, equals, then you just look for it. You go, okay, it's E2. You can even click on it. If you click on the cell, it'll even fill it in for you. This is basic Excel stuff. There's a more advanced Excel stuff that I don't do well. But this I could do. Very, very simple type of stuff like this. But how much more efficient is it when it's like, okay, I'm going to download, cut and paste the pitchers from the bat, the hitters from the bat, the plate IQ projections, and then I could bring in any template source from any other place. I could format it for that for there, so you could so I could import it into there. If you use the Fantasy Labs optimizer, right? Fantasy Labs has an optimizer. That is different columns than lineup HQ. If you just prefer that optimizer, obviously they're part of Better Collective, so they're not technically a competitor. Where their stuff is set up differently. You're like, oh, how do I get the bat projections? How do I get the plate IQ projections into Fantasy Labs? Well, this is how you do it. Get the Fantasy Labs template and have it all fill in. You download the template. It has all the players and all the everything, and you match it up. Instead of cutting and pasting, I'm going to cut this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to Next thing you know, it's 10 minutes later, and you don't know where the hell you've cut and paste. The only caveat to doing it this way, as I'm showing, is that you have to get the names right. So on the reference template, you have to correct the names. You could do it manually. There's a way to not do it manually. I'm not showing you that. You have the people that have Carlos Rodon it's not an O, it's an O with the little thing above it. So if you try to use Carlos Rodon, and it's not going to match Carlos Rodon, like in the bad projections, it's just a normal O. On another template, it could be the O with the little thing, and it's going to V look up and not find it. And then you'd look and you go, why do I have like 16 players today that have 0 projection? When obviously I go to the sheet and I see it. It's because of a name matching issue. That's why if you see the jokes on Twitter every once in a while, everyone knows an MLB. You know someone that manipulates data. An MLB DFS. You could find out immediately. All you have to say to someone is Luis Garcia. That's it. If you say Luis Garcia and they chuckle, that's someone you could trust with manipulating data. To some extent. If you say Luis Garcia and they go, I don't know what you're talking about, right? Say Luis Garcia and go, the second baseman for the Nationals. You go, no, the pitcher for the Astros. And they go, I don't understand why that's funny. That ain't someone that deals with data in MLB. Because let me tell you, Luis Garcia is the bane of everyone's existence. Because when they're both on the slate at the same time, like you have to have a signifier. You pretty much have to use you have to use IDs at that point. You almost have to make a function to deal with Luis Garcia. Because you'll start getting errors everywhere. Best case scenario, you just both Luis Garcias just are screwed up. You get the pitching stats in the hitter columns. And you get the hitter stats in the pitcher columns. And they're both Luis Garcia. Will Smith was a relief pitcher for the Braves. But he was in DraftKings files all the time. And then you try to put Will Smith for the Dodgers, and you're like, why doesn't Will Smith from the Dodgers have a projection? It's like, because it got mapped. It got mapped to the relief pitcher. There are other examples of that also, if you deal with this type of stuff. But this is not complicated. Some people may be looking at this going, oh, my eyes are glazed over. And I just probably didn't do a good enough job. I'm just kind of showing you this. It's not complicated. I don't know how good I am in teaching like software stuff. That's why I try not to. And also, a lot of the stuff that I do is not necessarily the best way of doing anything. It's like, here's the hacky way of doing it. Here's the way of I'll build a function in some documents that are like the whole screen. It's like, there's a add-on that you could just do this and it does it automatically for you. I go, I have no idea. It seemed it's very straightforward to me. Right? I'm someone that it's a map. Like I look at a map and I go, I'm just going to follow the road. It's like, you can just cut across here. It's just a grass field. It's like, no, I'm just going to do it the long way. I'm going to do long division. I'm not going to use a calculator. I'll do it by hand. And who cares if the function is 174 characters? And then you try to troubleshoot anything and then your head explodes. That's the problem with doing it that way. So there are better ways of doing this. But if you want to, you could start experimenting today in Excel. You could do it in Google Sheets. Yeah, anything that I'm showing you here can be done in Google Sheets. You're not grabbing content from outside sources. You're not bringing in XML documents. You're not doing anything. You could do this in Google Sheets for free. So you don't even need Excel. But fool around with it. Download some of their stuff. Say, hey, I'm going to go to Fantasy Labs. I'm going to download their projections. I'm going to go to Lineup HQ. I'm going to download that. I'm going to and see what you could do to make your process more efficient. I mean, that's kind of the point of the Excel tools in the theory of DFS for advanced players. The portfolio trimmer. You could do that manually in Lineup HQ. You can. 300 lineups. Maybe it takes you 5-10 minutes to trim based on certain parameters. Or you could just download the CSV of all your lineups, download the projections, cut and paste them in there, and then we have buttons, and it just does it for you automatically. Even if you wanted to build that in a simple way, I think even if you just, I think most people can even do that. Like the portfolio trimmer. Look at the thing of, you would have to make sure that it's ordered the right way. See, the thing is that to do it the best way, typically it's probably over your heads. Pretty much over my head also. I could learn, but I don't take the time to do so. It's like I can build a portfolio trimmer. It's like, as long as it's sorted by fantasy points, I could put in the function to like look at the column this way, and if this, do that. And then as far as the macros, I don't even know. I wouldn't even know how to remove them. It would be the type of thing where it would just highlight stuff. It's like, okay, here are the rows that you want. Right? Out of the 300, here's the 47 lineups. But they're just highlighted. You have to like cut and paste them individually. Like it would not be that efficient. Like that's as much as I could do. And then obviously if it's not sorted by fantasy points, then nothing works. That's the Excel stuff that I do. That's why James takes care of the Excel stuff that's more complicated than that. But as far as aggregating data like that, I mean, this is not complicated, other than making sure all the names matches. It's not really. I don't know. People are watching. They may go, "Oh, I'll never be able to do this." It's like, no. This. Trust me. You could Google VLOOKUP in 5 minutes and know the basics of how to of this. Oh, you put here, you put there. There's 2-minute video. You go to YouTube and there's 2 or 3 minute videos of basic Excel, or just like, I'll show you how to use the VLOOKUP function. If something doesn't work and you get a div, whatever, you get an NA, typically a little error thing points out and it'll tell you what you did wrong. So, this doesn't reference anything. It's like, oh, okay, I must have the wrong cell. Maybe it's not row 44. Maybe it's row 45. Maybe I didn't put a $sign where I was supposed to put a $sign. Oh, okay, I missed a $sign. You put a $sign there, you press return. Oh, it works. You missed the parentheses, right? You're doing a little formula, divide by whatever, and you missed the parentheses. Typically, it'll tell you that immediately. Stevie Brown says a lot of free courses on Coursera too, some specific to modeling. Right? I'm not even getting into. See, the thing is, I'm not even getting into that. I'm not even talking about using Excel for modeling at all. I'm just talking about data manipulation. Just how to do a simple thing. If you want to, you have a you have a service where it's like, oh, I'd like to be able to take the plate IQ projections and plug it in, and it maybe the tool that you use elsewhere compares like projections to props. So it pulls in like Draftkings, Fanduel, MGM, Caesars, stuff like that. And it shows you all the lines. And it's like, well, import your projections and we'll show you where there's value. And you can get that at scoresandodds.com. But let's say you have that. Well, get the template from that place, because they're going to say, hey, you need to import this to us. And here's a template that you use. And then you look at the template and you go, okay, how do I match the plate IQ data into that template? So I don't have to do it manually instead of having to cut and paste and order stuff. It may be the type of thing where the template has every Major League Baseball player in existence. But the plate IQ projections will only show like who's on today's games. So if you sort by like the name column, obviously there's their template's going to have like 3,600 players, and the Plate IQ document is only going to have 1,700 players. So you're not going to be able to just cut and paste columns. They're not going to match up. So you have to have a way of, I don't need to care about that. Just make a VLOOKUP function and copy it to every column. Make sure that it does it. And then if you wanted to add other sheets of like, oh, well, I can grab this projection and that projection and this projection, then you can do the weight. If you don't want to do weights and just do it, do it with the one. I just want the bad projections. Okay. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about adding the 2 and divided by 2. Which ain't complicated. You're just typing in plus symbols. Well, how do I add 2 things in Excel? The plus symbol. How do I divide it? The slash symbol. Like, this isn't complicated. There's some better ways to do things than others, but dude, the simple stuff works. So if you have any questions about this type of stuff, you could email me. questions@theoryofdfs.com. Obviously, we have James on every Monday. So if there's anything like a little bit more complicated than this, or places where you could get Excel resources, I mean, James would be the best person to ask. So if you want to ask those types of questions, feel free to just submit them in. questions@theoryofdfs.com. And we'll talk about it. I'll ask them on Mondays. Okay, so hopefully no one got bored. I mean, I've never done a show like this. Right? We've talked about it. I use Excel to do some stuff, right? But I don't show it, right? And it's proprietary. Like, dude, nothing I'm doing is other than what the stuff that's in the Theory of DFS tools, which I have showed plenty of times on this show. But that this type of an aggregator or projection type of thing isn't in this. Because I mean, there are better ways to do it. We don't have to include that. You're typically putting in your finished projections. Like in the Theory of DFS tools, you're putting in the end result of this. You already have it in Lineup HQ, and now you're taking that and putting it in. So there's no need. There's no need to have that in here. You just whatever projections you have in the optimizer of your choosing, it could work with the Theory of DFS tools. But give me those thumbs on your way out the door. If you learned something, did you learn anything? Just get a sense. The bare basics. Maybe your head exploded. Maybe this simple stuff is just so complicated to you that you're like, okay, I'm never going to do this. It's like, if this is the simple stuff, then yeah. I was thinking about learning how to create my own model in Excel, and it's like, I'm lost even on referencing B2 and putting the value in another sheet. Like, dude, if you quit at that point, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like on a scale of like 1 to 100, as far as complication of what I'm doing, like I would say this is at like from 1 to 100. Okay, so 100 would be very difficult to do, very difficult stuff. One would be opening Excel, like double clicking on the icon. What I've showed today is like a 5. If that, like a 5. I won't even put it up to a 10, like a 5. Trust me, it's not hard. And maybe you don't need it, and maybe you don't. Hey, maybe you have no use for this. Maybe you're just like, no, I play DFS. I use this Plate IQ projections, and that's it. Okay, but you get that in you get that on your screen right here at RotoGrinders. Sign up for RotoGrinders. Get a premium subscription. Click on that link in the description. Get $10 off your first month. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live tomorrow. MMA, right? I think they added another fight to the card. Woodson has been getting old. I think it's just like 17th opponent or something. I don't know. Is that fight still on? It's Woodson against someone. It's been replaced like 3 times this week. But yeah, I think he's fighting. Hopefully that would make it 12 fights. 12 fights. We'll see tomorrow. We'll take a first look at the UFC MMA slate on DraftKings and answer your DFS strategy questions like I always do here. 11 o'clock Eastern, Monday through Friday on the DFS pregame show. on RotoGrinders.com.